Right, so Apple seems to be gearing up for another Snow Leopard moment with iOS 27, and honestly, this might be the most sensible decision they've made in years. According to Mark Gurman in his latest Power On newsletter, iOS 27 is going to be one of those updates that focuses less on flashy new features and more on fixing the foundation. A proper cleanup year, a digital spring clean, but without the actual cleaning because it's Apple doing the work instead of us. And frankly, that's a relief, because the amount of bugs floating around lately makes it feel like iOS needs a fumigation more than an update. It's not catastrophic, but some of these glitches have been lingering annoyances for so long, they've almost become a part of daily life. Like background radiation you can't see, but you can definitely feel. This whole thing's been compared to macOS X Snow Leopard, the classic stability first release that everyone still holds up as the gold standard. Snow Leopard didn't change much visually, but everything felt smoother, faster, tighter. And after the rollercoaster that iOS has been on recently, the idea of Apple taking a breather and focusing on quality genuinely sounds refreshing. Because if we're being honest, things have been messy. Not disastrous, but messy in a way where you think you've tidied your room and then you realize there's still a pile of clothes behind the door. That's iOS right now. Animation stutter, apps occasionally freeze, settings menu sometimes throw tantrums. It's like the software has developed a mood, but it's not the kind of mood you want in a device that costs over $1,000. Now there is one exception to this whole no new features just fixes plan, because Apple can't resist sprinkling in some AI. Apple Intelligence is expected to expand into more apps, which feels inevitable at this point. You just know the Notes app is waiting to become sentient and maybe start judging your life choices. And on top of that, Gurman once again mentioned the upcoming Apple Health Plus subscription service coming to iOS 27, which will apparently offer personalized health recommendations. Because of course, Apple found another thing to turn it into a subscription. Nothing says well being like paying monthly to be told you're not walking enough, drinking enough, or taking enough deep breaths. I half expect to suggest maybe spend less time refreshing Twitter in the next update. Outside of the new AI bits though, the focus is clear. Fix what's broken, improve performance, make people trust updates again instead of treating them like a mystery grab bag of potential chaos. And honestly, I'm fully on board with that. iOS 26 hasn't been disastrous for me personally, but I've seen so many reports from people saying it's been an absolute buggy disaster. Apps randomly breaking, animation stuttering, settings menu behaving like they've had too much caffeine. There are entire threads online of people just begging Apple to calm down and stabilize things. So yes, taking a step back to focus on quality actually makes sense. And we've seen this work before. iOS 12 was a breath of fresh air, fast, stable, polished. It made old iPhones feel usable again. People loved it. But then iOS 13 arrived and immediately wiped out all of that goodwill. The stability vanished, bugs came back with a vengeance, and suddenly we're all flashing back to that rough period where the OS felt held together with hopes and prayers. That's why this time, it's not enough for Apple to have one stable year, they need to actually maintain that level of reliability going forwards. Otherwise, iOS 27 ends up being a temporary fix rather than a turning point. This is not the kind of year you want to waste just to have the same issues resurface next autumn. But let's talk about the biggest pain point for me, the keyboards. Because Apple, I say this with love, the keyboard's cooked. It has been acting like it's possessed. Autocorrect sucks in a way that feels almost impressive. Sometimes it corrects things that aren't wrong, sometimes it refuses to correct things that are actually obviously wrong, and sometimes it invents entirely new words for fun. And recently I saw a video on Twitter that showed something even worse. The keyboard literally adding letters the person did not press, just creating typos out of thin air. Not even accidental thumb slips, the keyboard is generating chaos on its own. That's how you know it's time for Apple to intervene. If iOS 27 is truly about quality, the keyboard should be at the very top of that list. An iPhone should not feel like it's sabotaging your messages. Messaging is fundamental. It's the one thing that shouldn't feel like a gamble every time you try to text your friend, boss, or family member. And the timing of this whole quality first approach is interesting. Apple rarely slows down. They love pushing new features every year, even if the OS isn't fully ready for them. But taking a break now signals they know things have slipped. They know trust has dipped. They know people are hesitant to install new updates on day one. So this is their attempt to rebuild their confidence and honestly, it's overdue. And right around now is the perfect time to remind you to hit subscribe and also the hype button below. It genuinely helps a small channel like this grow, and it boosts the video so more people can see it. It also tells YouTube that you enjoy long rants about keyboards and Apple's yearly software personality crisis, which is very important data, clearly. Anyway, because the update likely won't be massive in terms of new hardware requirements, expect the same devices that run iOS 26 to get iOS 27 as well. So if you still own an iPhone 11, which at this point feels like the Nokia 3100 of modern iPhones in terms of longevity, you might get another year of support. That's right, your trusty iPhone 11 may live to see another year of software updates, and honestly, that would be impressive. Now, the other half of Gurman's report talks about macOS 27 getting the same treatment, a year of fixes and refinements, and this actually makes a lot of sense. macOS 27 will begin the phasing out of support for Intel processors and Rosetta entirely, with the process being complete with macOS 28. That means Apple no longer has to maintain compatibility codes for older machines. They can finally strip out huge chunks of legacy codes, simplify frameworks, and fully optimize the OS for Apple Silicon. This is basically the software equivalent of clearing out all the stuff in your attic that you've been pretending you'll use one day. You won't. Apple won't. It's time to bin Intel support and move on. And this can have a real impact. With the old Intel baggage gone, macOS could become leaner and more efficient, less weird edge case bugs, better performance, a cleaner foundation. Even tiny things like animations and app launches can improve when the OS doesn't have to carry the weight of two architectures. It's been a long time coming. Ever since the M1 dropped, Rosetta has basically been the training wheels keeping everything upright. Now Apple's finally confident enough to ride without them. Developers may also benefit. Less legacy code means more straightforward optimization for apps, fewer odd crashes, and potentially better battery efficiency on MacBooks. But circling back to iOS, the big measure of success will be the betas. The first iOS 27 betas will drop shortly after WWDC next June, and the moment that happens, we will all immediately know whether Apple's serious about this stability thing. If it's relatively smooth, if things are polished early, if the keyboard behaves like it's had therapy, that's a good sign. So yes, the update might not be flashy, it might not give you dozens of new toys, a redesigned control center, or fancy animations you can show off to your friends, but if it means the OS becomes stable, responsive, predictable, and trustworthy again, then honestly, that's the kind of update that matters the most. Your phone shouldn't feel like it's freelancing as a comedian when it autocorrects OK to oregano. Smooth, reliable updates are the kind of thing that actually improves your day-to-day life, the kind of thing that makes your iPhone enjoyable to use instead of a test of patience. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want to follow the beta chaos next year, along with whatever surprises Apple inevitably throws in, make sure you subscribe and hit the hype button. It helps the channel massively and keeps these deep dives coming. Plus, it gives me the motivation to keep watching Apple's weirdly fascinating update drama so you don't have to.